Demon's Souls' design is incredibly pronounced. For something whose world is centered around destitution and solitude, it's packed with mechanical, literary, and historical substance. It's the debut title from a series that many of us hold up as creating multiple modern classics, but Demon's Souls is remarkably unique in its own family of games. Like so many other marquee releases, Demon's Souls is both distinctly its own and deeply informed by the history of games. I won't pretend to be a master of the lore of either Demon's Souls or Dark Souls, but if you are interested in that, then I strongly recommend VaatiVidya's videos. They are excellent. What I am looking to discuss here are some of the less tangible thematic qualities that I've enjoyed from the Souls series' first installment. One of the most striking differences between Demon's Souls and the sequels that followed it is the game's very familiar version of humanity. Both the worlds of Dark Souls and Demon's Souls are filled with sorrow, but whereas Dark Souls' world feels ancient, epic, and fantastical, Demon's Souls' take on a great despair feels influenced by an almost religious sense of loss. If Dark Souls is a world post-humans, a new age of souls and dragons, then Demon's Souls offers a world following the Rapture, a land where the dead still roam, unsure if this is home, purgatory, or just the closest thing to hell. In an essay for Times, Jared Newman illustrates the difference between the two games with a simple example. Quote, "The attitude in Demon's Souls is that you're not going to survive, so no one particularly cares about you. Dark Souls is practically the opposite. You're sometimes called the chosen undead, and many characters pray for your safe travels," end quote. With no hope on the horizon, it's easy to understand Demon's Souls as a game about the end of days. Unlike Dark Souls, Demon's Souls is broken up into distinctly separate areas. Each one of these zones offers a snapshot of a shriveled humanity. Demon's Souls opens in a fairly typical war zone, a sieged castle, and before long, the game infamously sets the precedent that you will die repeatedly, and your soul will remain in the land forever. What's fascinating though is that your death in the grand scheme of things is statistical. Beyond the demon who kills you at the start of the game, you spend most of the game's first hours engaging with humanoid soldiers. And then, after struggling past legions of unnamed troops, a dragon shows up and kills 10 plus of your adversaries in a flash. This is one of the game's many reminders that humans, even undead ones, can't hold a candle to the encroaching shroud, the beasts of chaos let loose on the land. The forgotten steel mills of Stonefang, the silent dragons who circle like crows over the Shrine of Storms, the plague-riddled rot from the Valley of Defilement. In the context of a medieval fantasy setting, these are places of work, wartime armories, and the final resting places for the dead. And although architecturally, Dark Souls is made up of the same low ceilings and narrow hallways, the world of Demon's Souls is distinctly suburban. It belongs to humanity, a scope revisited in 2015 with Bloodborne. My favorite example of this is in the Tower of Latria, the game's third area. The corridors of Latria are filled with deranged non-adversarial inmates and Cthulhu-esque guards whose bells echo through the halls. At first blush, Latria isn't a particularly unusual medieval fantasy prison. However, once you've finally climbed its towers, you're met with a surreal mishmash of industrial power lines and stained glass windows. Above all else, the Tower of Latria is a church, one that's fueled through pollution, and if the ferocious octopi guards are any indication, fear. Regardless of any rapturous shrouds of evil that have cursed the land, or whatever lore established the conflict in the world, this space was architected by humans, made beautiful and then hideous at the hands of human ingenuity. It's through the marriage of these two ideas that the world of Demon's Souls comes alive. On the one hand, humans don't compare to the beasts who dominate their spaces. On the other, a series of questions. Is mortal life worth saving to begin with? Is human life special? Are we blessed or are we damned? It's with all these grandiose meaning of life questions that the game's art direction starts to click. The mythological sensibilities of the opening cutscene, the Buddhist monks who lie in the walls of a cathedral, even the scale miners of Stonefang who resemble a popular culture's version of Homo sapiens. Demon's Souls is a medley of human existence. Humanity's ambitions, failings, and fragility, all tied together by a supposition of its end of days. Thank you all so much for listening, it is beyond appreciated. I have some more stray thoughts on Demon's Souls, so stay tuned for that. If you really like our content, you can do all the liking and subscribing, or you can visit castcouch.com and give us a donation. You can do that on the right-hand side of the website. Keep talking about games, they're the best.